Hi, I'm Ree from Mummy of Four, and I help busy mums make their lives easier with parenting tips, tricks, hacks and advice. Today I'm going to talk to you about something I don't feel is talked about much or enough online, and that is the problems and struggles I had with fertility. Now I know what you're going to say, you've got 4 children, how can you possibly have fertility problems? Well, I did, and I'm going to tell you all about it now. So, basically the story begins, Dylan's 14, so decided he wanted to have a baby, came off the pill, a month later, line turns blue, bish bash bosh. No issues at all. It wasn't until we decided to try and have another baby, that would be William, who is now nearly 7. So there's a 7.5 year gap between the boys, that fertility was sort of even on my radar. So I'm sorry, I'll just adjust all these cameras, make sure everything's working properly. So yeah, I had what is commonly known, which I didn't know anything about at the time, secondary infertility, which means you have a baby and you think everything's fine, and then you think, there's another baby, and you think, yeah, okay, my body knows how to do this, and nothing. So we started trying in what must have been August, September time of, oh gosh, what must have been 2010, I guess. And being the kind of person I am, I immediately started recording everything and charting everything, which I personally recommend wholeheartedly. And I noticed quite quickly that I wasn't ovulating at all, which obviously is a problem. So I don't know how much you know about fertility, but the basics from biology, obviously you have to release the egg, which happens normally around 14 days after you have a period. Yes, you can see Zara in there, can you? Yes? Zara is here sitting with me. You want to come and say hello to everyone?
No.
Right. Do you want to get out?
No.
No? Do you want to say hello?
No.
Say hello to everyone. You don't want to say hello? No? Okay. Like I said, I started charting to see if I was ovulating. And roughly, if you have like a normal body, a normal cycle, you have your period, so that's day 1, and then around day 14 you release an egg, and then around day 28, if you've got like this normal standard cycle, then you would either realise you're pregnant by being able to do a test, or you get your period. So by charting, you're just keeping a track on what's happening with your body when you're getting your period, and monitoring if you're ovulating, which I'll go into in a second. And then obviously if you know this, you know when's the best time to try to conceive, and you know if things are working properly as they should, or if they're not. Obviously it turned out with me, things were not working properly. So I found out from charting that I wasn't ovulating at all, and quite quickly identified that, and sort of self-diagnosed that I thought I might have polycystic ovaries.
Cold.
The water is cold.
Cold.
The water is very cold, isn't it?
Zara cold.
Zara's cold. Yeah, Zara's got a cold. Right. I think Zara's nose, I can't stand snot. Anyway, so the reason I noticed, I thought it might have been polycystic ovaries, is my best friend had been diagnosed with polycystic ovaries a few years before, so I was really familiar with the symptoms. So when I noticed these symptoms that I had in myself, quite quickly, I thought, right, it might be this. I got on to my GP. Now in the UK it's very worthwhile bearing in mind that they won't help you with any fertility issues until you've been trying to conceive for 1 year. So when you go to your GP, bear this information in mind before you speak to them. So make sure that when you are asked that question that you've been trying for a year, if that's, or you know, if you'd like some help with investigations into fertility. Now I would wholeheartedly recommend doing this sooner rather than later, because if you have got any issues, then there's obviously massive waiting lists for any help or investigations, so it's well worth getting on that list as soon as possible. Pretty much my advice with absolutely anything is, if you're worried at all, go to your doctor and get them to get a referral, get you on a list, because hopefully by the time the referral comes through, you won't need it, you'll be pregnant anyway. But at least you've got that as a backup if there's a problem. So got myself on this waiting list. They did some investigations. they always, even if you think the problem's with you, they always make your husband or partner do a test, which obviously my husband was not very impressed about, but he had to do, otherwise they wouldn't treat me. Anyway, he was fine. It turns out the problem was with me. I did have polycystic ovaries, so which all that means is I was not ovulating regularly. So obviously, if you don't ovulate, you can't get pregnant. So I was prescribed a drug called Clomid. Apple. Here's what I prepared earlier, because last week you shouted that it made me cut up an apple, so I've already cut it up beforehand. Isn't that clever? Apple. Apple is cut. You eat the apple. So I had a drug called Clomid, and that kind of forces you to ovulate. It's only available on prescription from the consultant, but it obviously allowed me to get pregnant. I thought it hadn't actually worked. I was doing ovulation tests and I was charting, and nothing had picked up ovulation that month. I thought nothing had happened, and that's the month I got pregnant as well. So obviously the other problem with having polycystic ovaries is that ovulation tests are not that accurate, because the chemicals in your body are just all over the place. So anyway, that was with Will, and we decided we want to try to have another baby, and that was Bella. Back in the same thing, I knew exactly what the diagnosis was, but they still make you have the same tests just to confirm exactly what's going on. They still had to test my husband, still had to test me. And then I had Clomid again. I had months and months of Clomid that time before anything happened, before I actually fell pregnant. And in fact, I was on the waiting list and I had an appointment, but the consultant had cancelled it because of scheduling conflicts, and the appointment was to discuss and book an appointment to have my ovaries drilled. So they were going to do keyhole surgery and blast off all the cysts. Luckily that was cancelled, because as it happened, I was pregnant with Bella at the time, because obviously for the first 14 days you can't actually confirm you're pregnant with a pregnancy test. So I was pregnant, I didn't even know it. So yes, luckily fate took a hand there, and that all turned out quite well. Now, one thing they do say to you when you've got polycystic ovaries is pregnancy fixes polycystic ovaries, which is really, really frustrating, because when you're trying to get pregnant and they're like, wow, the only thing to fix this is getting pregnant, you're like, seriously? Well, that's what I'm trying to achieve. Now, I can actually testify that this is true, because this one here, you can say hello to everyone again. This is my miracle baby. And I say she's my miracle baby because we weren't going to have any more. And then one day my husband said to me, wow, you've got all these bizarre symptoms, you're not pregnant, are you? I'm like, obviously not. I'm massively infertile. I can't get pregnant without drugs. And ta-da, Zara, I know. So she's our miracle. You want your water back? There you go. So Zara is our miracle baby. So after all those rounds of fertility treatment, to sort of get pregnant naturally was a lovely surprise, a big surprise, but a very lovely surprise indeed. So basically what I wanted to share with you were my kind of words to you, I guess, about, about if you're trying to have a baby, and where I was then and what I wish someone had said to me back then. So I've used a website and an app called Fertility Friend at the time, which was great. I had to take my temperature before I woke, as I was waking up, before I spoke. Yes. Now this is to take your basal body temperature. Now I've put all this information in a post because it's quite detailed, which I will link below. But basically you can chart your temperature, and before you ovulate your temperature is here, and then it will jump. It's only like half a degree. Your basal body temperature, which is the temperature you are at rest, will jump half a degree to a degree after you ovulate. So the charting pinpoints when ovulation happens. So with hindsight, you can see if your body is doing what it's supposed to. I'm not sure if I'm explaining this terribly well, but like I said, it's all in the post, which I will link. But yes, I can't recommend charting enough, because for me, although in the UK it's not something the doctors necessarily recognise, I know they do in the States, It's not something they're interested in seeing because they think it's not accurate enough. But for me, I felt like I had to do something. I felt like my body wasn't doing what it was supposed to do, and I found it very, very frustrating that my body was broken and it wasn't working properly, and that there was nothing I could do about it. So charting gave me some sort of element of control back, which I really felt like I needed at the time. So for me, it was sort of the only way forward. Since then, they've brought out new wearable products, so you don't have to do, which I think some of those I think in the post as well, so you don't have to do this whole taking your temperature malarkey, which can be quite stressful. The other thing you can do to see if ovulation is coming up is ovulation tests. These can be quite expensive, but you can buy them online in bulk. They're a lot cheaper. If you have got a standard body without polycystic ovaries, they work really well. They detect something called an LH surge, which is the hormone surge that occurs 12 to 36 hours before ovulation. So I used to do these ovulation tests. They're not terribly accurate for me because polycystic ovaries means you can have these multiple LH surges, but I did them anyway because when you get baby brain on, you know, and that's what you want, you kind of have to do everything you can. Zara is singing the My Idea song from Molly and Mac on CBeebies, in case you're wondering what that is. Isn't it good? Yeah, she's nodding at me. Anyway, so that's what I did with charting. If you've got any specific questions about charting, you can check out the post or drop me a DM. But obviously it goes without saying, if you've got any concerns about your fertility at all, you must go and see a doctor. But for all the information that I'm sort of blabbering about now, see the link. Right, the next thing, I wanted to say, I think I've mentioned this earlier, but make sure that you keep in mind that in the UK, if you speak to your doctor and you have not been actively trying to conceive without contraception for 12 months, they can't refer you. So that's worth bearing in mind. The next one is to keep on top of your appointments. The only reason I actually got seen as quickly as I did with all of them is because I nagged. So I got hold of the phone number for the people who were dealing with the... What do you want, Danny? I don't know what you're saying. You want to see what's in the box? There you go. Sarah is snacking. Snack. Right, I've gotten hold of the telephone number of... I got hold of the telephone number of the person dealing with scheduling the appointments with the consultant, and I nagged them a little bit, just, how's it coming along? Am I still in the process? Because sometimes people will change jobs and your referral gets lost, so it's really worth sort of staying on top of that and seeing where you are in the queue. The next thing is staying healthy. One of the problems you can have with polycystic ovaries is things like weight gain. And obviously, in order to get pregnant, you're more likely to get pregnant if you are healthy. So nice and balanced, just no excesses of anything. So no crash dieting, but not being underweight or overweight and not overdoing it, and make sure you get enough rest and all the basics that we're all supposed to do as humans and that we don't normally do. But looking after yourself and staying healthy really can help when you're trying to get pregnant. This is the other one that people used to say to me, and I just need to bring it up because it's the most impossible advice. Everyone's like, wow, just don't stress. Just, forget about it and it will just happen. Now, if you have ever actively been trying for a baby, I don't know about you, let me know. I became so fixated on it. It's this kind of weird chemical takeover thing that makes it all you can think about. So to be told not to stress and it will happen is impossible advice. Now, with Will, I actually thought that cycle was a write-off, and my husband and I went away for the weekend. We did actually say, well, we're not trying this month because, it's a write-off, I'm not ovulated. And that's when it happened. So I guess it's true. Raisins are on the floor. It's just the box, baby. Have this box. I guess it probably is true that the less you stress, the more likely it is to happen, because like with everything, stress has a negative impact on everything in our health, doesn't it? Has an impact on breastfeeding, fertility, everything. But so anything you can do to reduce stress in your life, do it. But when people just say to you, just forget about it and it'll happen, I think that's really hard advice to follow. So let me know if that's how you felt when you were trying to get pregnant. So yeah. Oh, you found it. Found it, a raisin. Yes. The last thing I will say to you, that at the time I just wanted to get pregnant straight away. Every time and every month and every time I got my period I cried, and you know, I wanted it to happen now, and you worried would it ever happen. But you only get, if I'd got pregnant any sooner than I did, I wouldn't have had these babies, and these babies were worth waiting for. These babies, yeah, yes, I know. These babies, my babies, I only could have had at that exact moment. So whether the universe had a plan or whatever, I don't know, but you are mummy's babies. You are mummy's babies, yeah. And I don't know whether it's some sort of cosmic ordering or what, I don't know, but I just know if I got pregnant any time before I actually did, then I would have had different children, and these are my children. They were worth waiting for. So I think that's really hard to know at the time when you don't know if there's something wrong or if it's ever going to happen. But if I could go back to myself and say, hey, look, these children are waiting for you, you just have to wait for them, then that would have been quite comforting. It's just always impossible to do, isn't it? So yeah, I hope some of that's been helpful. Like I said, there's a lot more information in the post than I've chatted about today, so please go and check that out. Thank you so much for watching. Please don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the bell button to be notified whenever I post new videos, and head over for more information to the blog at mummyof4.com.